MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com. Expand your skills. Improve yourself. Get a free 10-day trial of all lynda.com has to offer at lynda.com/MacVoices. And by iChart Magazine, putting Apple and tech news in focus. Subscribe in iTunes or find out more at iChartMag.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I'd like to introduce you to Jodi Spangler, an independent Apple consultant. Jodi, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, Jodi and I met at MacStock a couple weeks ago in Chicago, and she has a particular niche that she fulfills in her consulting, and I thought it was very interesting, and I wanted to talk to her a little more about it and have you learn a little more about it and see maybe if you can gain some wisdom out of it or whether it's just going to be interesting. So, Jodi, that's my introduction. Now I'll let you throw in exactly what you do and under what name you do it.
Okay, I have a company called Lakeshore Mac, and I'm on the southwest lakeshore of Lake Michigan, in Michigan, and I have about a 350 client base here. But I also do remote controls. I do phone. I do stuff for like all people over the world is who I help. So remotely, I can help anybody. Locally, I drive my little Macmobile all around and go to people's houses because a lot of times I'm dealing with a lot of seniors and it's hard to remote them because they just don't get it. So a lot of times I'm driving to locations. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I started out in hardware repair. I was Apple certified in the beginning days of my first certification was in Apple IIs, Apple II Plus, 2GS, Apple LCs, all those different things that I used to do. And I was my own service center using the Apple GSX service. So I started in hardware. Once I got into hardware, then I went to software. And once I went into the software, then I started working, teaching in training in the software, just because, I started in hardware. And then in the old days, they didn't even have a hard drive when I started. So as I migrated to learning, the hardware of a computer, then I got into learning the software and then was able to teach it. I moved to Michigan in '95, and then I started teaching classes here. I taught K5 through 6th grade, and then I taught the teachers, and then I taught community education, and now I'm teaching at Lake Michigan College. So, as I have been doing this for so many years, it's kind of evolved. It's evolved as I've gotten older, and also as I have been training, where that I have found a little niche here in that people my age and older, which I'll be 58 pretty soon, which I don't care. I earned this gray hair, but
I didn't ask, Jodi. I did not ask.
Anyway, the niche is that a lot of the people, especially like if you go to the Apple store, and they have some wonderful kids. The kids are great. They just get it. They live to breathe and eat and drink, ones and zeros. They know nothing but technology. And then they get these people, these seniors that they want to get on too. And they go to the Apple stores and they get that one-on-one training, and they have absolutely no clue what that person is saying. And the problem with the person who is sitting behind that desk is that, they know nothing but technology. They have no clue how to relate to someone who doesn't. They don't. It's the difference between speaking analog and speaking digital. And I have a unique ability to bridge that gap between both worlds to where that, I do both, and I'm able to, and it's hard a lot of times. And I bang my head up against the wall sometimes when I get home. But I'm able to bridge that gap where I can teach the seniors, how to get on and how to be able to do the things that they want to do with technology. That's what I do.
So, Jodi, did your client base? I guess to some degree they did, but did they advance with you in age, or is it something that you're just now meeting people that are getting into technology for the first time because they're surrounded by it and then they need some help?
That's basically what happened when I came here. And once I got, I was in education in schools until the year 2000, and then my mother got cancer, and I had to go take care of her. I flew back to California, stayed there for another 5 years before I came back here again in 2005. And during that 5 years, I actually taught Mac troubleshooting and repair all over the country for a company called CompuMaster that I did training everywhere. And when I got back here, I kind of fell into a niche where that, I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go back in education. I just kind of started on my own. And as I just started training people, I just found this need. And actually, the old people, they find me. I really have no idea how they do it. So, I have a website. I don't go out of my way advertising. Sometimes I'm too busy. It's like every Wednesday I go to Holland, which is 50 miles from here, and I'll have like 6 to 10 people. Sometimes I leave at 9. I don't get home till 9 at night. So it's just, they find me. So.
Okay, so there's so many aspects of this. First of all, I think anyone at this point who is part of a user group or running a user group has run into some of these issues, because the user groups are largely, not completely, but largely populated with people that are, they have a little more experience than others. We'll put it that way.
Okay. Well, that was nice.
Yeah. And, those of us that are technologically inclined are trying to share this stuff. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge in so many ways, because you want to be doing the new cool stuff, and a lot of these folks are just trying to pick up and learn some of the basics. And for me, I find myself looking through their eyes and realizing that all the stuff I know how to do, and it's so easy for me because I've been doing it for so long, it's not as easy as we all think it is.
No, and that's exactly, you have to really, you think, it's like when I do these college classes and I start doing my curriculum, like, iPhone 101. Well, exactly what is that? What exactly is iPhone 101 for, a 20 or 30 or 40 something that's had an iPhone before? Compared to an older person, you put this technology in their hand, they absolutely are clueless. There's the iPhone 101 can be like way beyond and several steps down from 101 when you're thinking about it. In fact, one of my first classes, it said iPhone 101, and some guy came into class with a Samsung phone. And he said, okay, what's an iPhone? No, it's a Samsung phone. And I'm not teaching that right now. We're not doing, we're not doing Android at the time, but it's those kind of things that I run into, some things that I really don't think about, to where that someone, even their understanding of what an iPhone is, it's that basic.
And I want to be careful, because I could run right off down that track about how you walk into certain big box stores, we're not mentioning any names, or certain retailers, we also aren't going to mention their names, and they're handing these people devices, and the people don't know the difference between an Android and a Samsung and an iPhone, or a Fire tablet and an Android tablet and an iPad. They just like, oh yeah, well that's what my son or my daughter or my neighbor said I should get. Yeah, that looks like it, so I'll take it.
Yeah, that's true. And then their kid or their son or daughter puts it in their hand. Oh, here, do this and do this and do this and do this. And then they get home and they're like, what do I do? They have no clue. It's hard for me, because I've been doing this for so long. When I'm with them, I have to really force myself. Don't touch it. Don't do it. You can't. You have to have them. And I've gotten really good at directing. It's like I was talking to my good friend John F. Braun, who was having trouble, with his mother, and both of them would get really upset at each other, because he would try to say, Mom, do this, and Mom, do that. And she just wasn't understanding. And I told him, I said, wait a minute. Instead of you saying, go here and go do that, go here, you say, and what I do, you say, what do you see? And that's the first thing when someone calls me for phone support, instead of me assuming when they said, well, where are you? At the desktop. Well, maybe that's not where they're at. Maybe that's what they think it is. So I say, okay, what do you see? And then as they're describing it to me in my head, then I can see that. But a really useful tool for, anybody can get it is Teamviewer. And I have found Teamviewer even to help your own mom and dad or your neighbor or your brother or sister. That's great, because, it's just as, they install it, and all they have to do is give you the little code, and you put it in, and you can take control of their machine. So that has helped too, is to use something like Teamviewer.
At the risk, again, of taking us off to a side, Teamviewer is an application that lets you remotely share their desktop and help them do things.
Yes.
Okay. Any security concerns there from your perspective?
Not that I know, because every time you log in, the password changes every single time. So it's not like a continual password. Once you log out, it closes it, it's secure, And then, to log back in again, you need to ask them for that credential.
And it's fairly easy to install so that if they're doing it, across 3 states, they can get it done.
They can get it done. I've had someone in Florida who constantly, I don't know what he was surfing. We won't go there either, but he was constantly getting those browser hijacks in Safari. So the browser hijack would completely lock him out. So it was probably like every other week I'd go and log in and clear out Safari to clear out the browser hijack so that he could continue surfing. So just something that happens. Instead of trying to tell them, start in safe mode on Safari, go to Safari preferences, go to the, security tab. They can't. Yeah. It's really hard for them to try to direct them to that.
Yeah. So you cover obviously Macs and iPhones and iPads. How about what we're all seeing that the iPad is supposed to be the device that anybody can use, and we've all been in the airport or in the grocery store, and we've seen the little kids, with the iPad propped up in front of them, and they're just going crazy. They love it. But the other end of the spectrum are the seniors, who this is a great device in some ways, but I would think there are a few challenges it presents too.
Well, it is. It's hard for a lot of them, and I have some of them. In fact, one lady, of course, if you've been doing this a long time, I still support Windows. I still support people on that. I still do. Where if someone has an iPad and they have a Windows machine, where I will allow them to synchronize it so it will sync with iCloud and all those different things. But this one lady, she's still on XP, and she will not go to anything else. And she has an iPad, and she hates it. She'd rather use her unsecure XP machine than do anything else because that's all she knows. But what I have seen, and the trouble with iPads, is that most of the seniors' fingers, they're not straight. They're crooked. And for them to, they immediately, they want to push, which, once we get into, like your Apple Watch, that, you can press it or you can tap it. The seniors, they usually push it. They don't tap. And their fingers are crooked, so they can't tap on what they want. So I carry styluses in my bag. I give them styluses all the time. I give them away. I get a whole bag of them for like $2 on eBay, and I just give it to them because styluses really help them. And then I have other seniors that they think they need a Mac, which is like even worse because they don't understand. It's like taking a Ferrari on a dirt road for them to get a Macintosh for what they do. So I tell them that, an iPad is really good, but they're also afraid the screen is too small. So talking about this iPad Pro coming out with a stylus, I'm thinking like, someone's thinking about, over Apple, thinking about old people, because I think that's something that they could really use.
I had not even considered that as an advantage. I mean, unfortunately, folks, it's just the way it is. Crooked fingers. I never gave that a thought about how that would work. And
put your hand like this and then try to do the iPad. It's really hard.
Yeah.
They don't move. Their fingers don't move.
Interesting.
Or they're crooked. My oldest client is 97.
Wow.
And he had an XP machine, and last year he decided he wanted a Mac Mini because he wanted to learn. So I really, do appreciate that. Someone who's been through World War II, and his whole life done everything else, and he still wants to learn something. I mean, I want to be that when I grow up.
Yeah,
definitely. That's how I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So am I hearing you? Do you discourage moving between the platforms, or is it? Do you kind of tailor it to the client about what their desire is, or what they're trying to do, or want to do?
I tailor everything to the client. Even when they tell me, they need a new Mac or something, it's going to be based on what they do and my knowledge of them. And that's one advantage that I have over someone like at the big box stores or, at Apple or something, is when someone goes in, they don't know them. They don't know what they do. I know what they do and what they want to do. So my recommendation is based on their experience and based on things that I think that they can achieve. Because you don't want to give them too much and make them fail. That would be really bad. So, you want to give them enough to where that they can get excited about technology. They're excited about they can do something. I have a client who's 84, and she saw my Apple Watch and she went out and bought one. So And then I met her. I took her out for lunch, and we played with our Apple Watches at the table. So it was really great.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Back to the iPad for a second. I'm really curious because I guess what I'm envisioning is using a stylus to manipulate everything. How do you find the virtual keyboard on the iPad for seniors? Is it because that would seem to be the one place I'm afraid that the iPad might break down a little bit with a senior trying to type out email on a virtual keyboard?
If they can have a regular keyboard, like an Apple keyboard, get a Bluetooth Apple keyboard, because they have trouble with the spacing. The spacing between the keys is not normal like a normal keyboard. So if they can any Bluetooth keyboard will work. I tell them just get the Bluetooth keyboard from Apple and it will be fine. Or else, I have a Logitech one that I like that's backlit. So for $100, I can get this backlit keyboard, which the lighting is really nice for them, because I wish Apple would make their keyboards backlit. They don't. So Logitech has a really nice one, and I've been having them buy those with their iPads, and they really like that. They can see it, they can see the keys, and it's not spaced where that they're so close together that they can't type right.
How about the mouse situation? And I'm going back. I'm sorry, I'm kind of shifting around here, going back to the Mac, because you sort of addressed that with the iPad and the stylus. Do you have a particular mouse recommendation? Do you recommend a trackpad or a Magic Mouse, or is there a third party you like for seniors?
They cannot do a trackpad. They
Really?
just can't.
Why?
They always, because of their hands are crooked and their fingers are crooked. They cannot do the mouse. They can't do the trackpad. Now, they can do the mouse, but usually the older mice are easier for them to use than the new Magic Mouse, just because they can't do that, the movement on the top of it. So, because of their hands, which, everyone, once you start to age, your hands are going to get crooked. So, when I have 80-year-olds, their fingers won't do that. So they usually, on a Mac, they will use a mouse, but usually they'll get a Microsoft mouse. I still have someone with a scroll wheel. They love their little scroll wheel, and they will always use that. So,
actually, I know.
and that's okay.
I know someone who's not a senior that will not give up their scroll wheel, and
Right.
that's all I'm going to say about it. And it's not me, so
Right.
that's not it.
Well, if you think about it, it's mechanical, and that's what they're used to. It's their security.
Today's edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. Get a full free 10-day trial at lynda.com/MacVoices. If you're listening to or watching Mac Voices, I'm betting it's because you like to learn more about how to do amazing things with your Apple tech and beyond. That's why lynda.com should be just perfect for you, because not only can you learn more about using Apple-related programs and gear, but also about all sorts of things, even non-tech things, like personal finances, negotiations, management, or go in a different direction with K-12 education or higher education, or switch over to video production or photography, or lots more. Lynda.com has something for everyone, no matter what your interest is or your expertise level is. And the best thing about it is that you can do just that, switch from one topic to another quickly at no extra expense, since once you subscribe, every single course and topic on lynda.com is available for you whenever you want. I've been getting up to speed on a service that I really haven't fully embraced yet, Evernote. Lynda.com has made it easy, not only to learn, but because I haven't been at home much when I have time to watch, I can take lynda.com with me via their iPhone and iPad app, so I can watch when and where I want, even offline. Right now, you can surf over to lynda.com/MacVoices, that's lynda.com/MacVoices, and sign up for a 10-day free trial. That means you can watch any lynda.com course for the next 10 days with no obligation, or as many different courses as you want. Sample training in Excel, programming for iOS 8, Google Docs, and a whole lot more. That's 10 days of training free at lynda.com/MacVoices. Sign up now and let me know what courses you decided to watch during your free trial. I'm on Twitter as Chuck Joyner, or drop me an email at chuck@macvoices.com. lynda.com/MacVoices to learn something new today. Thanks to lynda.com for their support of Mac Voices. Yeah, you said earlier on that you know how to talk analog versus digital, and that's we all think analog versus digital, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they talk analog versus digital. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you talk about it, you think about, like, we're talking about a phone or something. Their version of the old kind of phones went click, 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 click. I mean, it was, and a lot of people don't, saw those in movies, but, it was an analog device. It had buttons. It had things to push. It had those tactile responses that we kind of get it, but it's faked. It's not the same thing. So talking analog to them is relating to where they've been in the past and how those things work. And then talking with the device, taking the new device and say, it's just like that, but it's just a little different. Just trying to get their brains to format how that, yes, this is the evolution of that. But, don't be afraid of it. It still is something like, what they're used to, just in a different way. So you obviously have gained a lot of wisdom here, because there's so many things that as geeks, I think we were all ready for. We were just waiting for the touch pads and the things that you just put your finger on and it did something. And these folks, I mean, I've tried teaching some seniors a while back, rank beginners, and it's hard. Well, they have no frame of reference for a menu system. It's a whole new thing to push here and pull down and then go over a little bit and pull down again and go over a little bit and pull down. It's just not there. There's, like you said, there's no frame of reference in an analog world for something like that. You might as well hand them an abacus. It's like the same kind of thing. Although some people might not know what that is if they're too young. But
look it up, kids. Look it up.
Yeah, look it up. But it is there, and that's the whole thing. Also with the young people who are so great with this stuff. It's like with my grandkids. I'll just hand them something. I really don't teach them that much. They'll just figure it out. But with the older people, they cannot do that. They'll stop. They're afraid. They won't touch it. So I tell them, look, keep doing it. If I'm not available, because I'm not available 24/7 when I'm at someone else's house, I'm dedicated to that one person, and it goes to my voicemail. And they're afraid. They'll stop. They'll wait. I mean, I answer calls till like 10 o'clock at night. I go back through my voicemail because they're sitting there waiting. They won't go any farther. They're afraid. They're really afraid. And that's what makes the kids so good. Your kids are fearless. If something smokes, they'll say, wow, look at that. Cool. And not the older people. They're absolutely petrified. And they will sit there frozen, just waiting. They will not go on. So I try to help them. I said, look, I'm here. Just do it. Click around. And then some people, they'll email me, or, I get emails. I get, Facebook messages. I get iMessages. I get all kinds of stuff all the time with people in trouble. And sometimes if I just wait a little while, they'll figure it out. And then when I go back to them, I say, oh, I'm sorry, I was late getting to you. And they say, oh, I did it. And I'm like, oh, good for you. And I praise them how wonderful it was that they did it. Yeah. And then the more that they do that, because sometimes I try not, it's like not a 911 call. I try not to answer it right away. I'll give it a little time, because a lot of times they'll keep doing it when some people, and they'll figure it out. And then they feel really happy with themselves that they did figure it out. And I wasn't, I didn't have to rush to go and do that. I let them sweat a little bit, but sometimes that's a good thing, because they can do that.
I'm sure you've seen it, because I've seen it. This time I think is kind of over, but not completely, where new computer systems get adopted in an office or an organization, and people would rather retire than try to learn them. And that fascinates me. But what you were saying rings so true. They're afraid to touch it. They're afraid they will break it. And we all have jokes about something breaking the internet. These people are really afraid that's exactly what they're going to do, and you feel bad. And it's like, no, I mean, sure, if you pick it up and drop it on the floor, you can break it. Other than that, it's very unlikely that anything you're going to do, short of throwing something in the trash and emptying it, is going to do any damage to a computer.
Yeah, but I replace screens and I take them apart too. So I tell them I can deal with that. So if you do fall on it, I can fix it too. So that's okay. But they are afraid to try. They are scared to do that. And what I tell people, because I have a lot of them, all of a sudden Yosemite came out, and then now El Capitan's coming out, and they're like, oh my God, do they have to do that again? Why? I just got used to they have a fit because something new is coming. And I said, this is the march of technology. They actually have to slow it down, or it would go even faster. I said, so in order to stay up with it, you have to keep going. But it's okay, because a lot of what you know, you build on it. I tell them knowledge is like an onion. It's in layers, and you get another layer, and you get another layer, and another layer. And the more you know, the easier it is to learn the next thing. That's why you put something in my hand. Someone goes, oh, here, do you know this? I don't know. Give it to me. I'll figure it out, in 30 seconds or whatever, because I've been doing it for so long. I have that built-in knowledge that I have, and that's how that they can progress. And I have always vowed to myself to never, ever get stuck in a time warp. I do not want to do that. So, I have a lot of people that they do get stuck in that. They don't want to go on. And I tell a lot of my seniors, if you learn this, it actually makes new neuron connections in your brain. It will keep you from getting Alzheimer's and dementia. And it does. It will help them. So a lot of times, I tell them you don't have to subscribe to Lumosity. Just learn something new on your iPad or your Mac, and it does the same thing.
And there's so many great opportunities. I think if you can show people something that they can do and that they might want to do, as opposed to just saying, well, you should learn this new app. You should learn Photoshop just because. No, nobody's going to learn Photoshop just because. Right. They're going to do it because they want to learn how to enhance pictures or do photo retouching or whatever. And that to me is the key, is find something that you want to do or you need to do, or you have a project, and then it becomes at least a lot easier to motivate yourself. Well,
with most of these older seniors, they want to keep in touch with their kids and their grandkids.
Yeah.
And that's where their kids live in a digital world. And if they want to jump on the boat, they got to go there too.
Or otherwise it's going to be, once a year, Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Right. Just about it. And then, FaceTime and Skyping and everything else. I have a lot that have learned that, because, they're kids in another country. They're not going to be able to see that. So, once they do learn, and it really opens the world to them, it really helps them so that, I can remember my grandmother. I mean, in the days when they had the phones were so expensive. We talked to them on Mother's Day and Christmas because we lived in California and my grandparents were in Michigan, and you talked to them twice a year. It was astronomical to call them all the time. And we saw them, I think, 3 times in my life because air travel was so expensive. And to be able to get on FaceTime or Skype and see somebody, thousands of miles away that you can do like every single day, I mean, it's fantastic compared to when I was a kid. I didn't get that chance with my grandparents because they were across the country.
Yeah. I like your approach because, unfortunately, part of this discussion is that we've been having here is us versus them. We're making these generalizations, and I know you don't, and I certainly mean no disrespect. Mm-hmm. You're looking at a group of people who have a common set of experiences, and they're not the same as yours and mine. And some of these people are our age; they're probably a lot younger. And this has not been their focus. And now all of a sudden the world has become digital around them, and they're being thrown into it, or else.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Or else they don't get, because some of them, you can't do the online banking. You can't do the certain things. You have to have an account. You have to be able to do that. So they are getting thrown into it.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not.
How about social media, Jodi?
They're afraid.
Do you? Oh yeah. Well, everybody's afraid. I think because you're about to put something out there forever.
Oh, not me. I do it. I don't care.
Did they? Is that the basic reaction? They're just afraid, or
they're afraid, and they're afraid someone's going to get them. I had someone, today talking about that they are afraid to do any kind of online banking because I'm afraid that they're going to get me and they're going to, do this and do that. I said, they're not going to get you. They're going to get the bank. Why would they want to fool around with just you? If they're going to get someone, they're going to get the bank, or they're going to get all of Barclays or whatever. They're going to get the whole system. They're not. It's like they had this commercial that shows this woman, doing her debit card or something. And then this guy sitting there. Oh, he's taking Susie's, card or something. That's not how that works. There's bots and there's spiders, and they do algorithms where they're out searching, for people with XP that's not secure so they can grab stuff. But it's actually the machines that are doing it for them. They're so sophisticated now. It's not just one person sitting on one computer that's doing that. So I have had a lot of bad things happen to them because of their lack of knowledge, which a lot of them has been browser hijacks, where that it'll tell them, I just had a lady pay $300. She thought it was Apple, because it said it was Apple, and call this number, and she just paid $300. And then she found me, and I went over there, and I said, dispute the charges, cancel the card, and tell your credit card company you're not paying that. So that's what I did with her. I had another client get the same kind of thing. She thought it was Apple. And then they were high pressuring her, saying, oh, well, you have to do this right anyway. She goes, well, let me call my Apple person. Well, no, if you hang up now, it's going to be another $200. She hung up and called me. I said, thank God you hung up the phone. Then I had somebody else get as far as they were taking control of their Mac. She saw the cursor moving. She slammed the Mac shut. And when I got back, the Mac wouldn't even boot. I had to restore it from the internet. It just totally messed it up. I couldn't even get it off the backup. So I've had some things that I would say I never saw on a Mac happen in the last 2 years. Wow. And they were always senior people. And just like I just put on my Facebook fan page about this couple in Grand Rapids here in Michigan, where that, someone called, they thought it was their grandson, and they said, well, we need you to give us $300 worth of iTunes gift card, or $3,000 worth of iTunes gift cards. So they went out and got $3,000 worth of iTunes gift cards. And then I forgot, before they sent them to this person or something, they found out it was a scam. But then they went to the store to take them back, as they said, hey, we purchased these, but we didn't know what they were. They didn't know what iTunes was. They thought their grandson was in trouble. Okay, well, the store wouldn't take them back. Now they've called Apple, and Apple, keeps giving them the runaround. Hopefully they'll be able to get it back. But it's things like that. I mean, that just happened this week. And it's happening on landlines, because I have a lot of the people call on landlines. It's usually this Indian guy that says, your computer has a virus, and then they call. Yeah. And they give them their credit card. They do it. And I was talking to the Mac mommy, to Melissa, and we were talking about the landline should be called landmines, because the landline phones are all the bogus calls that they're getting, and the seniors are falling for it. It's really terrible.
Yeah, I've gotten that call from that same guy who insists that my computer has a virus, and it's like, yes. I love to tell them I don't own a computer, and they that stops them cold, because they have no idea what to say to that. It's like, well, of course you own a computer. No, I only use a computer at work. Well. That's funny. It really is. But and you look at those, and of course you and I would look at those, and 1 minute we'd laugh at them, the next minute we get mad because it's taking up our time, and you forget that there are people out there that are so afraid and they don't understand this stuff, and it just blows my mind that they give them credit cards or do that. But yeah, I guess if you don't know what you're doing.
No, and so I have to tell them, don't click on a link in an email. I mean, all the time I tell them this stuff, but I'll always have somebody fall for it too. All my newsletters always tells them that, but they're just really gullible. They believe people. They're from a generation where that they were trusting. And, my generation is like, I guess a little bit more, but, most of the kids and stuff, they're not going to trust you. There's good stuff on the internet, and there's bad stuff on the internet. And half the stuff is not true, that half of the stuff is true. So, you've got to weed through a lot of junk to find the facts. But, with the older people, they trust people, and they trust people more than someone, else. So, and that's sad. They get taken.
Yeah. And I hope people that are listening to this, this is not just an academic exercise for a lot of folks. You have older parents, you have grandparents, right. You have, your parents' friends that may need help, that can be taken advantage of at worst, or just be really frustrated with the fact that they can't participate in the digital world at best. And, that's got to be it's got to be like waking up from a nightmare or landing in a foreign country and not being able to speak the language.
Exactly.
And, you don't know Skype, Facebook, Twitter. What? Yeah. What does all this mean? No.
And it does. It keeps them out of things, but for some things it does keep them out of trouble too. But they do have to learn. I'm doing a Facebook class very soon, because they're afraid of Facebook. But, Facebook, it can let them get in touch with people they haven't seen for years. It can do good things. But, I teach Facebook security, what to put out there, what not to put out there. So, it's different things like that I'm able to tell them. But, and it's also funny that every single older person wants the manual in writing in their hand for everything. There is no manual anymore.
I hadn't thought about that.
But there's no manual.
Yeah, and that's another thing from that generation that's gone.
Right. So if you think, back to your first Apple II Plus or Apple IIe, there was a manual in that big box. Then we pulled that out. So there are no manuals anymore. They want that written word. They really do. And they will read it from word to word. And then they'll open it up and they'll say, oh, I still don't understand what I read. So it's kind of sad, you know. And I tell them, go to the help menu. See, it says help. The manual's there. Save a tree. It's right there. But they still have trouble.
Sure. Well, so if... What I guess I'm trying to get to a bit of a generalization here to help folks that might be listening to this. What are 3 good tips that you might give to someone who they're trying to help a senior with a Mac or an iPad, or for that matter, an iPhone? What are 3 things that you would tell them to do to maybe get the senior to understand a little better, or maybe help them communicate better?
Number 1 is don't touch their stuff. Direct them how to do it themselves, because most people learn kinetically. They learn with their hands. By you just doing it for them and then putting in their hand when it's done, they're going to have no clue how to do it. So don't touch their stuff. Number 2, when I'm giving a lesson, I'll use notes on my phone, and then I can use dictation to where when I'm telling them something, I'm actually speaking it into my phone, and then I send it to them in an email, and they can print out what I just said. They have the manual from what I just told them by using notes and using dictation. As I tell them, I'm speaking it in the phone to dictation on the notes, and then able to give them at the end of a lesson. So they have that written. They have it written down. They need it written down. So number 1 is don't touch it. Number 2, write it down. And number 3 is you got to have patience of a saint. I am not kidding. It's real hard.
No,
because on Wednesdays when I'm in Holland with all the seniors, because I contract with the senior home there, and that's when I go around doing that stuff. You know, these people kick my ass. You know, these old people, they may be, you know, old and stuff. By the time I get home, I am tired. And it's from trying to relate to them and not touching it and trying so hard to make them understand. It really wipes me out, you know, at the end of the day.
Those are 3 really fantastic ideas.
Those are things I do every day. Every day.
Well, and you don't look tired at all.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I guess, you know, is there an answer to this? I mean, it's obviously a problem. And again, I find that if I start to look at it through their eyes, the desktop, the Finder, the files and folder systems that we all know and love and can manipulate without even thinking about it, they take on a new meaning. Where does this leave us in our advance with technology and the ease of use? I mean, at least for my money, the Mac and the Apple tech is still much easier to use than the Windows side, but we still have a long way to go. And then we have the camp of people that are probably a little more you and me who say, we like all the controls, we like the sophistication, and you know, and yet Apple is forcing us away from some of that, or at least restricting our access to it, because they're catering more to the folks who just want to get things done.
Well, they are, and I mean, unfortunately, you know, old people eventually, you know, they're not going to be here anymore. So, you know, they will die off, and then that generation, the new one, which is, you know, the baby boomers coming up. The baby boomers don't need as much help as, you know, the 80 years old, and of course 90, and as they get older, because the baby boomers, you know, computers did come out usually when, you know, they were in their 30s. You know, I was in my 20s when I had my first computer. But of course, there were no classes, there were no schools. I took basic electronics and night school and different things, trying to find anything that would help me to figure out, you know, how to make these things work. But, you know, it's a little bit easier for baby boomers than what it is for the older generation. And, you know, I don't know what the answer to that. I mean, I'm hoping that the iPad Pro will help them because it has a stylus. They can get the Bluetooth full-size keyboard, and it's a larger screen that they can see because they have vision problems. So
it's a fascinating discussion, and I think I've learned a few things, and frankly, I thought I'd earned my battle scars, but you have a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you really do.
I got a lot. Let's see if it's white hair. You know, that's what happens.
So where can folks find you if they want to retain your services, or if they just want to follow along and see what all you're doing?
Well, my website's lakeshoremac.com, and they can go there. I'm having summer school classes at my house because I teach at the college. and they wanted more. And it's a lot of the senior people. They come to my house, and for 2 hours, I'll teach them a class. And that's another thing. They cannot take more than 2 hours. Do not give them more than 2 hours. A lot of times it's only 1 hour. They can't retain that, and I do have some people with dementia. They want to learn, and I keep telling them the same lesson over and over again. So, unfortunately, it just gets a little monotonous. But, they can find me on my website. Also, I'm at Lakeshore Mac on Twitter, or at Mac Find Her on Twitter. And I have a Facebook fan page called Lakeshore Mac where they can find me.
Great. Jodi, it was fantastic meeting you in Chicago, and thank you so much for this conversation. I hope that maybe we've made people look at dealing with seniors, whether it's their parents or grandparents or whatever, right, a little bit differently. And that includes the kids that might be watching here. Your parents aren't necessarily as tech savvy as you are, even whether you're 10, 12, 13. You may have to help them along a little bit. So just be patient with them.
Right, and then be patient, and don't ever think that they're stupid. They're not. It's like my grandson came up to me. He saw that the different apps and stuff that I have on my phone. He's like, "Grandma, you got that on your phone?" I was like, "Well, who do you think invented this stuff, dude?" So,
Perfect.
That was my generation.
Perfect. Yeah, you want a little credit for it, right?
That's right.
Thank you so much for the time. It's been great.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Hope to have you back again.
Anytime.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Take some of this stuff to heart, please. We've all dealt, or a lot of us have dealt with seniors in one situation or another. Hopefully you got some good tips from this. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the MacVoices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free MacVoices magazine on Flipboard by visiting MacVoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.